أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام، الحمد لله على نعمة الإيمان، الحمد لله على نعمة القرآن، الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق صلوا على رسولنا محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ونبينا محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. This is the presentation 3, Theory of Probability of Narrations, and this presentation about new definitions of narrator characteristics. Let's begin with this presentation with the definition of narration. Narration is the transition of information between the source and interlocutor, or in other words, transferring the knowledge from one side to the other. Yes, this is the definition of narration, and we have seen it in the previous presentations. Yes, you are seeing now the source side. Here is the source side and the narrator here, and here is interlocutor side. The narrator receives the report from the source side and conveys the report to the interlocutor. This is the mission of the narrator. One of the definition about the narrators in this presentation 3, the number of narration. This is important. The number of narration, the total number of narrations with chains narrated by a narrator. When we are talking about a narrator, we should know how many narrations he narrated in Hadith. If we do not know about the number of his narrations, then it means that we do not know the first important thing about him. And it's important to know the narrations which have chains, which have isnad. If narration without isnad, it doesn't matter. We should not know about them. We are here focused about the narrations with chains, because we are over these chains, over this isnad. We are testing the narrator. We are realizing his narration. So, according to this theory, the important about the narrations, the important thing is that it's isnad, it's chain. The total number of narrations with chains. If there is no chain, then we should not calculate it in his narrations. The total number of narrations with chains narrated by a narrator. This, when you look at the book of narrators, book of Rijal, Al-Ruwat, you can rarely see the number of the narrations about the narrators. They sometimes they talks about the amount of the narrations. They say he had many narrations, or he had few narrations, but there is no certain numbers about the narrators in the book of Rijal or book of Jarh wa Ta'dil. According to this theory, we should, when we are talking about a narrator, first of all, we should count his narrations with isnad. The second important concept in this theory is the reliability coefficient. We have talked about it in the first presentation, and here we will only, we will not put the detail here, but we will only give its description. This is symbolized with eta. The reliability coefficient of a narrator is the arithmetic mean of his percentages of success in his all narrations with chains. According to this theory, we are looking about the successfulness of the narrator in his narration, and we calculate this success over his peers, the ones who received the same report from the same source. We compare their report, and over this comparison we calculate the reliability coefficient of a narrator. So it is the arithmetic mean of his percentages of success in his all narrations. The reliability coefficient shows us how much we can trust this narrator in his narration, and how much his success, how much he could succeed, how much he succeeded in his narration. This reliability coefficient about his successfulness in his narration. And now, power. This is one of the important concept in this theory, and it is a combined definition of reliability coefficient and number of narrations of a narrator. Why did we need to produce this concept, power, about a narrator? Because assume that a narrator achieved a reliability coefficient, for example 70%, he could achieve a reliability coefficient, but with few ahadith, for example with 10 ahadith, with 10 narrations, he achieved 70% of reliability coefficient. Now imagine a narrator achieves the same reliability coefficient with 1,000 narrations. You could notice the difference between them. One of them achieved 70% of reliability coefficient with 10 hadith, with 10 narrations, and the other one achieves the same reliability coefficient with 1,000 narrations. What is the difference between them? According to reliability coefficient, they are same, but according power, the difference appears in the power, because power, a combined definition of reliability coefficient and number of narrations of a narrator. About the detail, you can look at my book Nafi' Mawla Ibn Umar. I have already there calculated his power, and my suggestion about how calculating the power, you can find it in that book. And now narrator model. This is a categorical definition, shows the circumstance of the narrator in terms of obtaining and transmitting the narration. About the detail, you may look at the presentation 2. At that presentation we talked about the models of narrators. Narrator model shows us about the narrator, if he is witness narrator, for example, in terms of obtaining the narration, or if he is a hearer narrator, or should he is a collector narrator, or in terms of transmitting the narration, he may be sharer narrator or distributor narrator. So narrator model shows us his state in obtaining and transmitting the hadith. And also it indicates if the narrator, an amateur narrator or a professional narrator, and his should he is from early period or from the next generations. Narrator model talks about many things, gives information about the narrator and his situation in Hadith network. And now, historical personality. This is a numerical value, indicates how likely a person is historical. Through this numeric value, we can understand if the person lived in the history, or how likely a person is historical. It can be calculated over the narrators. For example, think about a scholar, think about a narrator, a teacher, and about his students narrating us about him. Whenever they narrate something from him, at the same time they approves about his existence. They want to say to us that there was someone named like that, and we heard him saying that. So over his students and their narrations, it's possible to calculate the historical personality of somebody in the history. About the detail, you can also look at my book Nafi' Mawla Ibn Umar. I have already put there my suggestion how to calculate the historical personality of a narrator. And now, teacher's profile. A side view of the relationship of a narrator with his teachers. It's important to know the relationship between a narrator and his teachers. In books of Jarh wa Ta'dil and books of Rijal, you can find the name of the teachers. But for example, you cannot find how many narrations